So in this property that was recently purchased, there's a big brown stain in the corner. You'll see on a map shortly. The property was subject to a damp proofing quote before the purchase. Kenwood, the damp proofer, came back and said it would cost 15,000, and they completely missed the root cause of damp. And there's a clear center of the dampness, and it's around this corner here. You'll see now. So this is using a damp meter in radio frequency mode. That means that it uses radio waves at a set frequency to penetrate through the wall to identify zones of dampness or density, but generally that means dampness. I recommend any owner get them one. They're very inexpensive, and you can find out whether my methods work by testing to see whether the wall's drying out, but it will take between 6 and 9 months. It dries from the top downwards. That's why you'll tend to get the worst of the damp at the bottom. So outside we can see there's some white salts. These are calcium sulfate salts, and it comes from the release of moisture from the building material, which indicates it's coming from inside.
It's hidden behind a false wall. And there's water dripping there. And that's a lead pipe. So that's the cold water pipe, which is joined there. Let's have a look. It seems to have transferred over through this void here, presumably when the boiler isn't being used, because it'd be too warm otherwise to transfer.
The vapor can transfer and then condense on cold pipe.
So this is in the bathroom next door. Oh, it's nice view.
So this is the rest of the room, and it's got a solid floor, and water can transfer across the solid floor.
Can I come in here?
Yeah, of course.
Condensation can work like a leak, and it can have a similar profile with a central zone. The damp meter I'm using here is a protimeter that most surveyors will use. It's calibrated, that's the only benefit, but it costs about £400 or £500 compared to 20 odd pounds.
So this room is pretty good.
So in the room next door to the damp room, the wall's dry there, but damp around the chimney breast. It's often more of a problem with chimney breasts because of the way they're constructed.
Very humid in here. And then the kitchen, which has an externally ducted fan, so that looks good.
One of the big problems is it was a tenanted property, and tenants don't tend to use kitchen extractor fans, however much you provide them. The bathroom is good. It's running it needs to be at 15 litres a second. It's more or less that, so that's good. And it should last for half an hour. But keep the door closed. Make sure the vapor is going out. This is upstairs, immediately above the damp section of wall.
Okay.
The leak is coming from there.
Yeah, but no, it wouldn't hurt him because we already checked everything. That's it.
This is a condenser pipe.
To be changed for us. But the damp was in her when the other lady was here.
The damp was there
Yes,
before.
it was there very badly. And even my husband, they did something. I have no idea what they did. when the builder comes and they did something, then they terribly went wrong.
Okay. So there's water there, but it's not necessarily affecting the downstairs.
That's not the damp, because you think when the steam comes out, I will ask my boiler guy to come and fix that.
You get steam when the steam comes out of the condenser at the back.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So the wall is damp, but it's just above a solid floor, and it's one floor up, so it's unlikely to be coming through. You would see more dampness across this floor if it was coming from above. This is behind the washing machine, which unfortunately has slightly damaged the plastic front, so big apologies for that. There seems to be no leak. This is the wall immediately above the wall with the brown stain, your damp wall. So this is the details provided by Kenwood as part of their quote, and that's where the damp zone is, and it's centered there, and it's spreading out, it's spreading across the floor. It's actually not so much there, but anyway, but it's all localized around that one corner, and that's where it's coming from. And you can see it obviously on the outside as well. Key thing is that the bathroom needs to have an extractor fan. Right, to the front, the front wall has already had damp proofing. In fact, the walls, or a lot of the walls, have already had damp proofing treatment, which I doubt Kenwood mentioned in their report, but there you go. Hey ho. I suppose they're there to sell a product. So this is looking immediately outside the pipe here. You can see the green on the outside. And in my opinion, it's transferring over to here. It will be probably a single wall inside that with a void. So it may be that it's transferring through that section of wall. Or it's transferring within the void as vapor. In the short term, what you should do is use the data loggers, and we'll have a look at those in a sec, and insulate around the cold water pipe, and remove this water here, and so insulate around this cold water pipe as best you can. It's not a case of insulating every single small part of the pipe, but rather to reduce the amount of vapor that's coming into contact with the pipe. When did you take the boarding off? A
couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's still very damp here. I would also use a fan, and I would get yourself a dehumidifier anyway, because they're always good, worthwhile. Get a 20 litre plus dehumidifier and dry it out. Give it probably a week or so just to dry it out, and then see whether any of the moisture comes back. This time of year, it will dry relatively quickly. Sorry about that. So it is possible that there is a leak that's coming from there, but it's just as possible that it's just moisture that's condensing. And because you've got lots of, this wall is moisture laden, it will evaporate. You know, it will take months and months to evaporate. And so, yeah, a dehumidifier, a fan, and time, and just
stick it in this cupboard. And let it go. Yeah.
Would definitely use it, and there's no extractor fan here.
So this is the bathroom next door. There's no extractor fan.
You've got a bathroom, essentially a bathroom with a cold water pipe, where you can get condensation forming. So the temperature of the cold water pipe is going to be similar to the outside temperature in winter. So it comes in at roughly 8 degrees centigrade, and that will then cause condensation. But if you keep the internal humidity down, the vapor down, as measured by dew point, I'll show you how to do that as well.
Okay.
While I totally get that Kenwood has a business to run, an income to make, a living to make, firstly, they should check that there's at least a risk of rising damp. Rising damp comes from groundwater. It does not come from soil percolating. It does not come from condensation. It does not come from a leak. It does not come from penetrating damp. It comes from groundwater, only groundwater. That's the water under the water table. And the water table at the moment is 70 meters below this property. So there's not a chance, zero chance of there being rising damp. And there's a clear and obvious source of water. It's round the pipe. Now, it's possible that it's condensation. It's possible it's a leak. I would say it's most likely to be caused by condensation. I say it's most likely to be caused by the property being tenanted, with tenants not using the bathroom. Well, they didn't have a bathroom extractor fan. Probably not using the kitchen extractor fan, probably drying clothes internally, probably not using a dehumidifier. They only need to have the dew point go above the temperature of the cold water pipe, which is typically about 8 degrees centigrade in winter, for there to be condensation on that. And condensation will constantly drip down onto the wall and move around to where the brown patch is. It is possible that it was passing through the void where the boiler is. That's less likely because obviously the heat from the boiler. But if the boiler's not in use for long periods of time, such as when people are away, then that could be a source. As I say, it is possible that it's coming from a leak. It is possible, but I doubt it, that it's coming from upstairs. The only way you'll know is to dry that wall out thoroughly, to dehumidify, to use a fan, to keep the internal dew point as low as you can do by dehumidification and ventilation, and until eventually it dries out. And if the water comes back again, then you'll know from where the water comes whether it's a leak in the pipe. Obviously, a lead pipe is better not to have a lead pipe, but it would be relatively expensive. And I know it's part of a management company, so you probably don't bear the costs yourself that much, but it would be, well, two things. One is it wouldn't get rid of the problem, because even a plastic pipe won't cool down quite as much, but it will still form condensation. So you'll see plenty of my videos where you get condensation on cold water pipes. But it also be quite disruptive, just having workmen in there pulling the thing apart. So anyway, it is definitely a Kenwood fail. They should absolutely have identified that the source of moisture was there. If it was rising damp, apart from the fact that it's highly unlikely in London, anywhere in London, but it would have an even tidal mark, because groundwater is coming up evenly up all the walls, and that clearly isn't the case. So it's definitely a Kenwood fail, and really they should be reported for it. You'll see from one of my previous videos with a vendor that lost the onward purchase, her dream property, for a very similar, it wasn't actually Kenwood that time, Tapcoa. And again, it cost a similar amount of money, and her whole chain fell apart because of that. So these are serious matters, and there should be a higher level of professionalism. It should be properly regulated.